We are now in the era of video game adaptations. Those are the next things that Hollywood has taken because they're so out of any actual ideas. They've decided, well, we got to attach ourselves to video game franchises because that's got a built-in audience. That's got a built-in fan base. They'll come out and watch this if we slap the IP all around. That'll work, right? Well, in some cases, it's worked to great effect. In others, not so much. And I'm sure there's more well on the way. But when it comes to the Borderlands movie adaptation, so far, it's not going so well. And when we saw the casting that got announced for this, a lot of people were scratching their heads thinking, okay, and I like some of these actors, but are they really the right person for those roles? Well, now a lot of people are finding out the answer to that. Borderlands is a video game movie made for absolutely no one. And that could almost be an understatement at this point. When you look at the reaction so far to the Borderlands movie, top critics, 0%. All critics doing a lot better, all the way up to a 9%. We're nearly at double digits by the critics, and the audience not loving this either. 37% from all audience. Verified audience a little higher at 49%. But the very idea that after opening weekend, you only have 250 plus verified ratings, that should tell you and give you a hint that no one is actually going to this movie. And that is the absolute truth. We knew after the opening night, Thursday previews, barely grossed over $1 million, that this was not going to be good. A lot of people were expecting a $10 to $15 million opening weekend. I regret to inform you, it's way worse than that. Borderlands opens at number 4 at the box office in its opening weekend to $8.8 million. Just barely beating out Despicable Me 4, which at this point has been out for weeks and weeks and weeks. Number 4 at the box office for Borderlands with $8.8 million. We're talking about potentially at the end of its run at this point, it grossing less than $100 million. And like that, even if it does get to $100 million, that might be like way too optimistic at this point. This is going to be one of the biggest, if not the biggest flop of the year. Because when you think about things that have come out, Madam Web, massive, catastrophic flop, only grossed about $100 million, right? But that movie only cost about $80 million. So still lost a fuck ton of money. There's no doubt about it. Borderlands cost more in the $120 to $130 million range, which means there's almost no hope at this point after this bad of an opening with this bad of word of mouth. There is almost no hope that it even gets to that point. And again, you have to factor in marketing. You have to factor in the box office cut, which is something a lot of people don't think about. Yeah, if a movie makes $100 million at the box office, the studio only gets to see about half of that as a rough thumb rule. Depends on where it comes from, domestic, internationally, China, wherever. But as a rough thumb rule, you can assume they'll get about half of that money back. So this thing is now destined to be a colossal, complete, total box office disaster. And listen, there's some people out there that have said, hey, I actually liked it despite what everyone is saying, but the vast majority of people out there, they say, who the fuck is this made for? Because it didn't feel like the game. Is this made for people that played the game? Is this made for other random people? Because why would you do this? Why would you adapt a video game franchise? We talk about this a lot. Whether it's a book or a comic book or like whatever, right? Why would you do these things? Why would you take this story and decide to do it for people that aren't fans? That should be the primary thing you're thinking. The core fan base for this, the people who go out there and play the games, that buy every game that comes out. That's who this should be made for. And at this point, it doesn't seem like that was who it was made for. And people are really scratching their heads to figure out who the target audience is for this. And I guess the answer is fucking nobody. Less than $10 million. At $8.8 million opening weekend, it actually opened to less than that overseas, somewhere around $7 million. This is going to be an unmitigated financial disaster. Borderlands could end up being one of the biggest flops of 2024.